See if I look at the big tree,
Mm-hmm.
the issue, the issue that becomes an immediate like worry, I don't see. So if I stare at the tree, I don't really see it. But if I look at the sky, thousands of noise.
So when you look at the tree, it's fine, but just shift a wee bit just at that blue.
The blue sky, hundreds of squiggles.
And no floaters. You don't mean like...
I get floaters as well. And it's hard to tell, like, because floaters can come and go, they can turn up. So, I mean, I know what the most likely culprit is, it's anxiety, but I did also have the thought maybe, you know, a new floater can turn up and then that can draw your attention to the eye. So I do get the floaters as well. But the one that causes the panic is the blood vessels. That's the one that causes the irrational closing in of thinking. Same with the clouds, really. It's like if I've got a thing to focus on, then it doesn't become so much of an issue. But when there's just a flat surface like a wall or a sky or a screen, there's just thousands of blood vessels.
I mean, I can see hundreds of stuff in front of my eyes when I look at that blue.
Floaters, but just floaters.
Floaters. No, I could definitely see the white sparkling kind of wee dots as well. Like, it's hard to explain. If I'm not quite looking at the sky, but moving my focus in a wee bit to almost like where I can see the floaters, but it almost feels as if it's further out than the floaters.
Right. See, that's what's making me think it could be a planar focus thing. I'm also checked in, this is maybe a bad idea, but checked in for a corrective laser eye surgery thing.
Yep.
Because I'm thinking possibly if they can like bring the retina back to where it's supposed to be, then that'll slightly affect the planar focus and I won't see them as prominently. But it's difficult to tell.
But what is it you're actually worrying about? Like,
it's a good question.
are you worrying that that you'll never not see them?
Aye. Also worrying, like, not being able to get rid of the thought that something has happened to my vision. Despite the fact that, like, I can remember points in the past, like 25 years ago in the 6th year common room, me cleaning my glasses. This is when it first happened, me cleaning my glasses and you saying to me, maybe it's your eyes that are dirty. I can remember certain points like that. I can remember being in the hospital in my 20s, talking to them and having that mindset of, they have to be able to fix this, because if they don't fix it, I'm not going to be able to live a normal life. And somehow I went for that. I don't remember how, but somehow I went for that mindset to literally not even thinking about it for years and years. Because we do for like 8-9 years, I don't think I even mentioned it in 8 or 9 years, and it must have been there. It's just somehow the signal was being processed in a different way.
Well, I've got a lot. I mean, definitely I have experience with, and I've been really fortunate, I think, on the whole, that I've only had a brief spell where it was really bad. But certainly a lot of experience with anxiety making me fixate upon a natural and normal thing, you know, which you'll remember was my heart stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When we were doing video guiding. In the midst of all that, I was just completely, no for all yet, but I'm trying to remember just when roundabouts.
I seem to remember it was when Hope was first born, and I assumed that was probably the cause.
That was probably the catalyst for it. Hope was born and then I was like, I'm going to die. And she's not ever going to remember me. And then I was like, oh my God, my heart is pumping too hard. I can feel my heart all the time. I can feel myself. I remember shooting bits for video guiding and standing there in them just before they would say action. I could remember I'd be standing there and I could feel my whole body rocking with my heartbeat, which is actually totally normal. Everybody's bodies
No, I
rock with a
remember.
heartbeat, which is why Solid Snake takes the fucking pills when he's doing the sniping.
Of course.
However, anxiety makes you irrational about stuff that is
I
normal.
remember walking you up to the hospital at like 11 at night or 12 at night or whatever, because you just had to go to get scans done.
Yep.
And I do remember thinking, I mean, this is like mid-20s me with far less experience or understanding, but I remember just thinking, this is literally nothing. You're literally worrying about absolutely nothing.
But I had I was running about a time where, like before that point, I had zero understanding or compassion for people that had anxiety or, because you're an asshole when you're younger. And so that made it harder for me as well, because I was kind of like, this can't be anxiety, it can't be a thing that's, this can't be on my head. That's no chance, no me, you know what I mean? And it was completely on my head to an extent, to a ridiculous extent. I remember being in meetings with tele companies and stuff like that, and I'd be pitching to people or whatever, and then the producer guy would be talking back and I wouldn't even be listening. I'd be just looking at his neck to see how much his neck arteries moved when his heart beat and stuff, It was a crazy time. But this what you're describing to me sounds like that, because my experience of looking at the sky the new like this is, if I focused and looked, I would see like static and the wee dancing about white things and the floaters and all of that. I could like focus on like magic eye style. I can almost like shift my focus to see that. I think maybe your mind has just chosen that thing as a kind of point of focus.
For the first time I've went to a therapist, and that's exactly what she says. It's like I explained what I thought was happening, and what I thought was happening was that something has happened to my vision, something has shifted in my vision, and I've not been able to stop thinking about it for the last 3 months. And she says, no, that's not what's happened. What's happened is stuff has happened in your life which has opened the door to anxiety. Like, you've made these big changes and there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's opened the door to this anxiety. And this time, despite looking back, and I now realise I had anxiety, I felt it before, I know what it feels like, but I've never used that word before. But this time, along with feeling the way it feels, I haven't been able to stop looking at it's chosen this thing to make me hypersensitive towards. But saying that out loud doesn't change the fact that
it's no help.
I'm stuck on it.
It's no help. It doesn't help. What genuinely helped me was Todd Rundgren's album Healing. I used to listen to that all the time, and that definitely helped me a lot. When I was feeling that way where I would start to get frightened about my heart, or I'd notice I would look at myself in the mirror for a wee bit too long to look at how my neck was moving and stuff, I'd catch myself doing that. I would go and I'd stick that album on and I'd listen to that album and I'd get lost in it. And and you start to realise in time that, if you can get lost and distracted in something and no notice it, then it's no a thing. Because I remember a doctor saying to me, the real medical emergencies and the real medical things that happen, you don't ever get to tune them out for like a few hours or no realise you haven't been thinking about them. They're there. They come for you. You don't need to go for them. You know what I mean? They come for you. It's trying to train yourself to live your life. Just what I've tried to do is go, I could worry about this and I could worry about that. But, a lot of people out there just ride the fucking bike until the wheels come off. And they don't, they don't think about, this isn't working right, that isn't working right. One of the things I was wondering with you was, I read a thing towards the end of last year, which was like, because I remember you're big into meditation and stuff like that, and
it's made my focus too strong.
Well, this is one of the things I was reading towards the end of last year, because I was thinking, meditation does sound good. It's got to be a positive thing. It's got to be a completely positive thing. And it was just some scientists had done some research, and they were kind of like, meditation is a good thing. is good for a lot of people, but for some people who tend towards anxiety and tend towards kind of fixating on stuff, they live their lives better, they people, if they learn to kind of float above everything and no think too deeply about stuff and no think too deeply about how their mind works or their self or how they perceive the world or any of that, because it's like a muscle. You start to train your focus internally. You know, your body's going to fucking use that. You know what I mean? And it was one of the things I thought to myself, meditation's probably not a good idea for somebody like me, because the last thing I need to do is be, even one of the, you know, fundamental things about meditation and stuff like that is like, you know, focus on your heartbeat and, you know, feel how you're, you know, and focus on your breathing and all of that. None of that stuff is good for me.
But this is a really difficult thing to talk about meditation, because it isn't like you have this sense that it has to be like you're taking a night class in pottery or something. That's like there's a natural progression, and it just doesn't work like that. And there's a point beyond like focusing where you're supposed to, like, what the app that I use daily is always trying to reinforce is that you're trying to get to a place of puncturing the boundary between yourself and everything else, and realising that it is all one thing, and it's your association to your thoughts and your emotions that causes suffering and causes you to think forward or look back. Or so it's like a, I mean, Ram Dass says be here now. That's like,
yeah,
that's it, very condensed. It's about acceptance of now without the tricks of the mind.
But genuinely, I think sometimes the most carefree people, and I mean by carefree people, I mean people who don't feel the need to self-analyse or don't feel the need to meditate, I think they people could be more here than any of us, because they're just living a carefree life and they're being in it and they're just going through their days and they're no, you know, doing what we're both prone to do in different ways, which is overthinking and analysing, finding ways to process stuff or deal with stuff, or, you know, constant inner dialogues going on in our minds, or, you know, anything like that. I would love to be like, that's just why I know kind of meditation isn't good for me, and I feel like, you know, is one of the things to consider as well is you know what far more about meditation and stuff like that than I do, but
no, recently I don't feel as if I do.
But if you're coming to me and you're saying, you know, that there's a possibility, if you're accepting that there's a possibility that this thing that's causing you some trauma dealing with, and it sounds to me, like, genuinely sounds to me that it sounds like my thing I had back in the day, where I was fixating on, because of anxiety, I was fixating on a normal process. Then maybe all the kind of inner work is something that you just need a break for a wee bit. You need to, which is easier said than done, because it's obviously something you do because you feel you need it.
Aye.
In the first place. But I don't know. It's a tough one.
One of the things that I thought was unique to what I was fixating on was the kind of feeling of, and I was assuming this was happening because it was affecting a sense, it's affecting my sight.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been getting this feeling of disassociation, or like things on the and it's like, it feels extra bleak because I've only just met Saf, so it feels like there should be a period of like everything is magical and everything is like he does love again, and
yeah,
that it should only be sunny. But everything, like, we do so many things and we go so many places. Like last night we went swimming in a loch, and it was a beautiful night and the water wasn't too cold, and I was looking up at the sky and just seeing this fucking mess of noise and just feeling that shadow of horribleness, like. And I was assuming that was because it was a sight thing, but you were saying that you had dissociation as well with the obsession.
Totally. When that was happening, I felt completely out of it. I didn't feel like anything that was going on really mattered, because I was like, this terrible tragedy is happening to me, and nobody's aware of it. So any fun or any joyous moments that I was in, I was like, well, this is fake. I'm almost just like faking it here, because in truth I'm in a terrible place.
Right. Well, that's exactly why we're talking about this instead of me like trying to write a sketch or
Aye.
the like normal games and stuff, because I'm like, I can't hide for this. I can't.
But it's important. I think it's like for people, even like watching the show, it's good to talk about this stuff, and because people out there will be dealing with similar things. And I do think it's like, see if there was something genuinely wrong with your sight. Let's say a person, right, who had some kind of terrible degenerative eye issue. Like, I just worked with a guy, Jamie McDonald, who's a comedian, a stand-up, and he's blind, and he was in the sitcom that we filmed, and he wasn't born blind or anything. He lost his sight, a degenerative sight thing, and lost his sight, and you know, and he makes jokes about it and cuts about it and stuff like that. But if Jamie when he was losing his sight, right, I can almost guarantee anybody that's in that kind of position, if they fell in love with this new person and then they were way up to a beautiful loch and they were in the loch and stuff like that, they would have just enjoyed being in the loch and being in that situation, even with the knowledge that they genuinely had something going on with their sight. They genuinely had a trauma happening. They would have been able to go, but I'm here the new and I'm loving this moment, and this is great, this is fantastic. The extreme response that you have to a simple thing, like my extreme response back in the day to my own fucking heart beating, right, and keeping me alive, is a symptom of anxiety. What you're actually just perceiving there is a symptom of anxiety. It's that catastrophising about stuff. I'm not sitting here preaching about it, because it's still an ongoing thing. Like for me, I'm really lucky the knowing that I'm in a good period, but I've had this issue with my throat recently, like for the past couple of years, and there has been something wrong with my throat, but I just went to the doctor 2 weeks ago about it, and it's away. But I can still feel it. I was like that to the doctor, I said, I can still feel this, and he was like, yeah, I know, sometimes your sensations can take a while to get back to normal and stuff like that, and you know, if you're used to feeling it, it can feel, it's like even a doctor like that works in ear, nose and throat knows there's a psychological process to this stuff as well.
Well, like, that's where when I went to the ophthalmologist, because I've been to the opticians, they checked my eyes out. I said there's a load of stuff happening, so they referred me to the ophthalmologist in the hospital. He checked me out with all his equipment, said your eyes are fine. I see some floaters, but I've seen far worse. And what he ended on was saying, have you in the past suffered from anxiety and depression?
Yeah.
So that's where he left it, which hasn't stopped me going, aye, but maybe he's not checked it properly, and maybe there's something wrong with my optic nerve, or my brain isn't processing the signal, so maybe there's more tests that they can do.
But what if there was something wrong with your optic nerve? What would be...
Well, I've said this before in therapy, like...
What's the big deal?
If I knew, like what you just said, like if I knew that it was for sure what it was and it was getting worse, then it feels like it would be a relief. Maybe I would feel differently once it was happening, but... No, I get that. It's just.
But the problem is, I was there as well, and I remember thinking to myself,
it's the fact you can't show it to somebody.
This is mental. I've gone off my head. I would joke about it. I would joke about it with you. I remember I was like, I'm going off my fucking head here. But it doesn't put it away. All you can do, I think, is ride it out and have faith that it is going to pass, and that does help. And you need a talisman. I remember that was how I thought about that Todd Rundgren album. I thought, this is like a talisman. It's just like a thing that when I feel this way, I pull this thing out and it makes me feel better. And so it's like, it's finding a talisman. It's like when I hear people talk about it's like when people talk about, say someone talks about cosplaying, for example, right? I've often seen people talk about cosplaying and they'll go, I do this because it's like, you know, I'm quite an anxious person or whatever, and when I do this, it's like, when I'm sewing and I'm making my stuff or I'm making my designs for stuff and all that, it's just something I lose myself in. And then it's like, I get it, like that's their talisman. Or if somebody's obsessed with playing one of the MMOs or whatever. Sometimes a game I don't get, you know what I mean? But they're like, oh, when I'm feeling low and when I'm feeling this, I can stick this on and completely lose myself in it, and and suddenly I feel better. And it's not just about feeling better in that moment. It's knowing that this can't be a serious thing if I can use something to turn it off. If a magical talisman can fix it, then it's no a real crisis. It's no like one of these terrible crises that that people seem to constantly go through. You know what I mean? There seems to be people constantly.
So did you talk to many people when that was happening? Do you remember?
I had one session of therapy. I had one session of therapy, and it was one afternoon, and they chatted to me and they were like, you don't need to come back, because by the point I had a doctor say, you've got generalised anxiety disorder, I'm going to refer you for some therapy. That really helped. It helped for me to go, that's what's wrong with me. It's the acceptance of that being what's wrong, I think, is the fundamental part of it. But it's weird though, because I would have thought that you would have no problem accepting the fact that you have an anxiety problem.
But it's I know.
Because you talk about it and joke about it.
I've never called it anxiety before. Like I felt like the last time I quit weed was it a couple of years ago? No, about a year ago. The same thing happened, but I went straight from high stress and now what I realise is anxiety to depression, because that's what happens, is like it breaks down your functioning power. I think I was also injured, so I couldn't run, I wasn't going to jiu-jitsu and all that, so a lot of habits fell away, which is something that has happened by meeting Saf, like, and I kinda in a good way, but still like the processes have changed and normal habits have temporarily went to the sidelines. I forgot what my point was. Aye, so the same thing has happened again, but I've just never called it anxiety before, and it just seems so. It seems so mysterious. Such a difficult thing to, because that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to look at it and go, right, how do I fix this? Can I run through this? Can I run for 10 or 15k all the way through this eyesight? Or can I meditate my way through this? But obviously if you're going into it thinking like that, you're not going to stop thinking about it.
Because it's about acceptance, and you can't always fix stuff. I think, definitely one of the things that's helped me as well is, it seems bizarre saying this, but like my dad dying and my ma dying has definitely put me in a better place mentally, I think. I'm not really sure why that is, but I've lived a kind of quite a carefree life and stuff like that, and no big terrible things had happened. I think when they things kind of happened, it almost like brought me into reality a bit more.
Teaches you what you are.
Yeah, it brought me right into reality, and I felt a more kind of fundamental contact with reality as well. And also my dad dying, and the way my dad died and the way he handled dying as well, definitely made me braver, made me more brave, I think, you know what I mean, and less scared of death and all that stuff. And so these things help. I think it's just, I don't think there isn't a fucking easy answer for it. That's why everybody has to deal with it, and everybody has to deal with it in their own way. But I think one of the worst places you can be with it is thinking that one of the symptoms of it is something else, another thing you've got to deal with. Oh fuck, here's another thing now, instead of the same thing. Because then it's just one thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just one thing you've got to deal with instead of, this one thing. Oh, and also my fucking eyesight is this, and oh, and also fucking this is happening. You know what I mean? Which I remember that was how I felt at the time. I was like, I'm fucking stressed out, and I'm like, I just feel low, and I think there's something wrong with my heart. You know what I mean? Instead of joining the dots and going, this is all the one thing. But it's a fucking long time ago now, and it's hard to even put myself back into the. It's hard to even remember how I was back then, because I was, it was bad. It was bad. I mean,
I feel.
I was really putting a right act on, and I can guarantee you 100% that as I'm talking And as I was talking there about how bad it was and all that you're probably sitting there and you're probably thinking about the eye thing, and you're probably thinking about and a wee bit kind of detached from what I'm saying, because that's just how it is. But that is just how it is.
Also thinking this is a nice garden, and listening to you distracts me, because I think I've thought about it in this way, is like your brain has only got so much processing power, like a computer, I suppose. There's only so many things it can do, and I'm listening to you and we're in the nice garden and I don't see it. But I'm still thinking about it.
Aye.
It's still there, and if I look up here, boom, there it is.
Aye. And you're always hoping that I'm going to look up now, maybe I'll look up now,
So it's not that I'm not just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it and thinking, I'm not seeing it, I'm not seeing it, I'm not seeing it. Oh, I see it.
Yeah. Totally.
So it's there.
Or it feels normal now,
Aye.
It feels normal now, so it's like a constant,
And it's absolutely fucking exhausting.
You're in fight or flight all the time. It's as simple as that. You've maybe got a key, you've maybe got something, because you can distract yourself as much as you want, but I definitely think that having a kid at the time did ultimately help as well, because I kind of went, I'm going to shift all my focus onto Hope. I remember at the time, and that really helped a lot. As she got older as well, and her wee personality came out and stuff like that, it's that weird thing where you love a child, but you fall in love with them as their personality comes out and stuff like that. And so that also helped, because I was kind of like, oh my God, I was thinking more about her than I was thinking about myself. And I don't think I would get back in that place again the new either, because I've got all the kids and I've got Jen. I care more about Jen than I care about myself, so I can kind of invest myself in that, you know what I mean? And I think you have, you actually have a way out now, which is just you're in a good place, you're a good relationship starting off, and I think you should just completely throw yourself into that as a project instead of, you often have yourself as a project, you know what I mean? And almost like talk about yourself that way, as if you're working on yourself, you're doing this, you're doing that, and I think you should.
I know, I've also thought about like connections as well, about how, because like one of the darkest thoughts that I have had when I'm low, and the way I've kind of just accepted thinking about myself, is that I've never been good at making pals, and I don't have that larger circle, so I'm by myself a lot of the time, which puts me in the position of having to like improve things. But I think that I've been thinking recently, that lack of connection to other people is costing.
But on the other hand though, it's like you might not have like a huge circle of friends, but you've kept friends for a very long time, which I think few people do these days, you know what I mean? Which is actually a bigger thing than being able to kind of buzz about, picking up loads of kind of pals here, there and everywhere. I think it's better to have known people for a long time that are still there, and I think so. I don't think that's true. I think once again I think you're viewing your situation, even with Safi, almost like through your lens, where it's like, what am I bringing to this, and how do I need to improve myself for this to work? It's just working.
Most of the time,
it's working, right?
What is working?
Your relationship is working.
Aye.
And yet you feel like you're in a fucking distress internally. And yet it's
I'm
working.
having to hide it. I mean, I'm not hiding it, I'm still talking about it, which makes me feel even like I can't win, because I'm in this position of going, don't fucking talk about it, don't tell her this, she's only just met you.
But this is the thing though, it proves that you don't need to do any special work on yourself to make it work, because it's working. So you don't need to do any work on yourself. Like, you don't have to make a project yourself to make that work. That's just working. And so, you should, because that would be my thing, if that stuff came back. And occasionally it does feel like, there's wee moments where I think it's creeping back or whatever, and I can just, it's less about being, I need to, centre myself or get back in touch with anything about myself. I'm almost kind of like, fuck myself, man. I'm just going to, focus on the nice things that are almost like external to me. Like, that helps me.
I don't know how to do that.
The computer games help.
I can't fucking focus on them. I can't concentrate on them. There was 2 questions that I got asked recently that I was really stumped that I couldn't immediately answer. The therapist asked me, "Are you bored?" She said, "Do you think you're bored?" And I'm like, I don't know." But Saf asked me, "What do you do for enjoyment? What soothes you, and what do you do for enjoyment?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Aye.
I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing with me as well. I have hobbies, you know what I mean? Like, I have so many things. I love to stick on a computer game.
Be proud of your hobbies.
I love to play my board games. I love to paint my wee guys. I love to, like, I have loads of things stacked up. So if I'm on my own, or there's ever any downtime or whatever, I can go, I'll do this, or I'll do that. I make sure I have all that stuff.
What I initially, what pops straight into my head there when you say that, and I think that's also about people who talk a lot. Met Saf's sister, she's fucking really, really nice, good person, talks all the time. And the thought that I see in my head, the same as you saying, like, you have all these external projects, and I think the same thing about people who talk a lot. That's a weakness. They're trying to distract themselves because they can't deal with this. And while I'm thinking this, I'm going, I can't fucking deal with this. So
yeah, but it's, you know,
I'm not really doing myself any favours with that kind of arrogance.
And it isn't that. It's like chatty people and people that do loads of stuff or have loads of hobbies and all that. It's like the fucking, you know, we're designed to be. We're supposed to be out hunting and fucking moving about and surviving and all that kind of stuff. That, you know what I mean? We're animals. We're supposed to be like doing stuff. We're not supposed to be, you know, living a life of the mind. It's, you know, like, I mean, I'm a from an identity point of view, I think of myself as a writer. You know what I mean? And so you're supposed to say when you're a writer, you know, living a life of the mind is important and stuff like that. But I really don't think. I think it's dangerous. I think for a lot of people, it's dangerous living a life of the mind because it's, you know, you shouldn't have these inner dialogues happening all the time. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't be analysing like when people are talking to you, you know, and I catch myself doing it. You know, some people are talking to me and I'm kind of thinking to myself like, what's their story and all that, and just like, instead of just accepting them and what's happening and, you know, all of that. But easy answers, I don't think there is any. I think it's one of the things you can see about
I think identity is another big thing. This is basically just a therapy session again for me, but identity is another big one because breaking up with the marriage breakup and the moving away and all that, and no really understanding what it is a day for a living and all that. It's like that's all these things are like sources of instability and kind of uncertainty.
Because you definitely, like, one of the things that, you know, your situation with, you know, the divorce and all of that, I remember thinking to myself that one of the oddest things about that was, you know, when you were together and you were married and you moved to that house and stuff like that, it was almost as if you were kind of like, I don't want to be this guy, like this guy that's in. It was more than just one thing, like the relationship or the house or hang me. It almost seemed to be like, right, this role I'm in, and where like you didn't like any of it at all, which is an interesting one, you know what I mean? Because it's often smaller things than that you know, are the situation. But I could see that you just weren't happy with, you know, the whole picture, really. But you mean, I mean, you're in a really good situation at the minute. It's just making sure. Even that back then about, you know, liking the whole picture and who you were and all that, you were probably thinking about it a lot. Do you know what I mean? I think you date, and I think you always have to an extent thought a lot about who I am, where I am, you know, what's going on. More than most people. Be nice to be like Jerry McLaughlin for a while, wouldn't it?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sure Jerry's got his issues as well. Jerry's definitely got his issues. Sometimes I think Jerry's completely off his head. But aye.
How long Do you remember how long you felt
The heart
fucking
stuff.
exhausted and trapped?
I mean, I always think it being 2 years.
Fuck me.
I don't know if it was quite as long as 2 years, but I think it was the best part of 2 years, definitely. It was the best part of 2 years, but it went super quick. You know, it wasn't like a long road out. It went fast when it went, because I think with a lot of stuff with the mind, it's about turning a corner. If you can get round the corner, it happens fast. You know what I mean? I don't think it is a big long tunnel you're trying to get to the end of. Sometimes I think it's as simple as like, where is this fucking corner? I've not found it, I'm in. You know what I'm out. I think it can be like that. But you just... It's nice to do something like this, and you know, we probably shouldn't talk about it again, because I think talking about it it's a good thing to do, but this show, for example, should be a distraction for you. That, and we have used it. The good thing is, and the good thing about the people that watch the show, is that they've let us talk about bad things that have happened in our life, and they've let us get serious, sometimes get really serious about stuff and all that, you know what I mean? But and we have both used it as a...
This, I mean, I'm speaking for where I'm speaking for, but this feels about as serious gets, basically, because it just closes you into the point to... And what happens at my here is it closes me into the point where I go, just fucking hang yourself, mate. Just hang yourself.
Well, this is the thing. It makes you feel like there isn't any point to anything. So you need to talk about that stuff. But we should be trying to use... Maybe we shouldn't be so much talking about our problems in the show as using the show as our escape as well, you know what I mean? Fun stuff and all of that. A lot to think about. There's no easy answers, mate, to any of it, but all you can do is not hang yourself. That's all you can do.
Have faith that it'll pass. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. It will. And it might...
Were you thinking like that when it passed, or are you just talking for experience? Surely you must have been thinking that it could one day pass, because 2 years, that just sounds like it becomes who you are for that length of time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a completely lost I kind of perceive it as a completely lost 2 years of my life. But, and I didn't think it would pass. I didn't think it would pass because I thought to myself, I'm going to have some serious heart issue, I'm going to have a heart attack, I'm going to die in my sleep or something. So there was no question about, oh, this will one day pass. It was like, I'm not even going to live to see, you know, anything happen. But eventually, you know, my mind kind of came to that realisation that, look, this isn't that, this is this. And then the minute I reached that point of acceptance, and it wasn't through, again, it was through kind of partly distracting myself with beautiful stuff, but also the acceptance that, you know, this is a fucking... It was almost like believing that an anxiety disorder like that exists as well. It was coming to a place of acceptance within myself, because it's not a nice thing to say, but definitely I had such a poor understanding of even things like depression and stuff like that, that, you know, when people would say they were depressed and all that, I'd be kind of like, really? Like, no, kind of almost like no believing it, or no, because I think sometimes until you have a proper perspective on that kind of stuff yourself, you've experienced it, you've got no concept of what any of this stuff is. And it's almost like once I realised, right, this is what this is. Right, okay, it's a real thing. It's not just, it's not just a real thing. It's a medical thing. It is a problem. It's just a different problem for what I thought it was. Then I was like, right, I can deal with it. When I was in my teenage years and I was having seizures constantly, right, in my teenage years, and I was going in, I went in to get a brain scan, and I think they were expecting to see a brain tumour there, and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember being frightened. I don't remember. I just dealt with it. I think my issue was always dealing with stuff that maybe wasn't real stuff I was imagined things, you know what I mean? And that's what anxiety is, and it's just understanding that. So that was where my turn of the corner came. It was a combination of things. It wasn't just one thing. It was like a doctor saying to me, you have generalised anxiety disorder. That is absolutely what you have. The doctor didn't go, there isn't anything wrong with your heart. You can go away, Mr. Florence, there's nothing wrong with you. It was, there isn't anything wrong with your heart, Mr. Florence, but you have got generalised anxiety disorder.
Should I speak to a GP again then?
Probably.
That's another thing about no thinking that it's a good idea. It doesn't feel like a good option to no talk about it, because you end up in a place that isn't good and you feel so shut down. I feel so shut down, but one of the big things that makes me reluctant to talk about it, especially like this, like record it like this, is because I know there's been points in the past where I've panicked about my vision, but then somehow after that I've forgotten about it and moved on. And I don't know if talking about it in this form makes that more difficult to happen, because now it's documented, you know what I mean?
I think there's an element of that. That's why I'm saying, like, when I'm saying we shouldn't talk about it, I'm just meaning on a show or for an audience. I'm not meaning we don't talk about it at all. We can talk about it, but I think, maybe when you do that stuff and you talk about it to an audience, it's that thing you're talking about identity. Suddenly it can become your identity a wee bit, and that's not your identity. Your identity isn't. I would never go, if somebody was to say to me, what is Ryan like, I would never describe you as like, he's this really anxious guy that worries about, all this stuff, and he's down quite a lot, and he thinks about, like, I wouldn't describe you as that. That's not your identity. But people could watch some of these episodes and think that is your identity. And so, that's the reason why I'm saying we should be using this show as like an escape. But also I think it's good to have an episode like this where we're like talking like this, because we know there's people out there who watch the show who have issues like this. They've told us. And so it's good to talk about it and not be like, we're not going to open up to everybody ever again. We're going to do comedy. It's like almost like, look, this is how we're going to cope with this, and also we're going to give people an escape by giving them funny stuff to watch and stuff like that, and maybe no, because it could be quite triggering for people talking about this kind of stuff.
No, that was Saf that said that to me about the podcast, because I've been wanting to talk about what I've been wanting to talk about, and she was the one that pointed out you should warn people before they hear that kind of thing, and I feel as if it happened on the stream as well, because I still stream every day and have been talking about it, and then people have been saying, like, I've started noticing floaters in my eyes now that you've been talking about it.
Aye, and even like, what talking about, before this, and when you mentioned about the eye thing, and you're saying, can you see them? When I was like, and then I started looking, and then I was like, I thought I could start to see them, and then I immediately went, right, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. Right. Because, and so it's partly that, but, but definitely, I don't mean no talking about it at all. Talking about it is super important. I'm just saying it's great that we've done this so much lately on Consolevania, that I think people that watch it kind of know the stuff that we go through and all of that, which is good.
They're playing this Samaritans advert in the train stations recently. I've heard it a few times. And the first time I heard it, it's just a voiceover woman saying, if you see anybody that looks as if they need help, why not spark up a conversation with them? Like, ask them where you can get a coffee or something. Like, just anything, give them anything. And that
was this Dumbarton train station?
No, guys. I think they're playing that in Northern though. But I was listening and going, oh, that's kind of eerie and kind of weird that it's got to this point that you need to say that to people to look out for each other. And then I remembered how I've been feeling and going, oh, they're practically talking about me. Like that's I'm the down person in that advert.
But also, see, the way I think about that stuff now, though, is see the vast proportion of other people, right? See when that advert is there or plays out, or they hear that advert or they see that advert, they don't even notice it. It's like noise in their ear, an advert for the Samaritans, or it's like, you know, a poster that their eyes just move past on a wall. It's like me with my, like, being, you know, so many times being such a hypochondriac in my life and thinking, I've definitely got cancer. I would walk down the street, or I'd go on a bus or a subway, and I'd be like, fucking cancer adverts everywhere. It's like, you know, it's clearly this is going to happen because there's like Macmillan cancer care stuff everywhere and stuff like that, you know what I mean? You know, I said, this can't be a fucking coincidence that I'm suddenly seeing all these adverts for, but, you know, adverts are just always there. And people's eyes are flicking past them and they're no hearing. And these carefree people that are out there who are just, you know, lucky people that are. But like I said, I am quite a carefree person at the minute. I remember where I was, and where I am now is like a miracle, like paradise where I am now. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean I don't get on a downer some days or whatever. You know what I mean? But that's just normal. It's normal. We have that.
I mean, I've only briefly. It was overall, I think it was a mistake looking on the internet at these kind of things. But one of the things one of the main pieces of advice that you get for, like, living with, I don't want to say coping, but living with like visual noise also works for anxiety, and that's just to tire yourself out, kind of like.
Day and other stuff.
They like keep yourself occupied, keep your mind occupied.
It's like people that live with tinnitus and stuff like that, which sounds like just one of the worst things you could possibly live with. And Jen's uncle, he's got tinnitus, and he has just had to learn to tune out the fact that he's got this fucking noise in his ear all the time, you know what I mean? And we'd be fucked. We'd be fucked. Welcome to Consolevania.
Welcome to the Proteus review. Proteus, not to be confused with... Get it? Get the joke? Get the video game joke? Good. Hey, I've been meaning to ask you, do you like blood and shooting things? Well, if you do like blood and shooting things, then I can't think of many games that I would recommend more highly than Proteus. Because my god, there's a lot of blood and shooting things in this game. It's the main selling point, I would say, of Proteus is the blood and the shooting things. And it's pretty unusual for me to be into this type of thing with the blood and the shooting things. But it just has a great flow to it, Proteus. It's free, or I say free, it's on Game Pass for Windows. It's no free because you're paying for the service. But it's got a great flow, it's a quick loader. Everything, the action is nice and quick. The maps aren't too confusing, they exist, the maps, which is all that they need to do for me to get confused. So there were periods where I was wandering around going, this is terrible level design, why did they not do that? And then I realised that it's not happened to anybody else but me, it's just me being shocking at games again. Other than that, it's got a great flow to it, lots of action, lots of non-stop action. Because of that flow, put me in mind of another FPS game that I'd played recently, Ultra Kill, which is also in early access, the same as Proteus. Just good, solid. You know how people are moaning about the Doom game when it came out and said that there was too much nonsense in it that they didn't want? Well, these Proteus and Ultra Kill both do the thing where they just go, here's gameplay, here's loads and loads of gameplay, and it's got that really lovely, satisfying, retro, realistic look to it. I try not to delve too deep into like how many weapons there are and all that, because the same thing happens with FPS fans as happens with other genres, where they take it as a kind of religion, and it gets a wee bit creepy, to be honest. Aye, there's a shotgun in it. Aye, alright, it is quite satisfying to shoot things. Please don't buy a gun in real life, you fucking weirdo. I'm just playing this game because it's fun. That's the only concern that I've really got. Is this fun to play. Does this remind me of being 14 years old, getting up in the morning and putting on my t-shirt that says on it, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me"? Aye, it does. That's what this game reminds me of. That's what this soundtrack reminds me of. It reminds me of being a wee spotty man who stank a fair bit from BO that he didn't quite understand how to control yet, but knew how to have a good time by blowing away at lots of whatever these things are, zombies or chaos minions, and just lived in the moment. I've got this poem by a Irish-English poet it'll go quite well with Proteus actually, with all this blood firing all over the screen. It's called Just Beyond Yourself by David White. Just beyond yourself, it's where you need to be. Half a step into self-forgetting and the rest restored by what you'll meet. There is a road always beckoning. When you see the two sides of it closing together at that far horizon and deep in the foundations of your own heart at exactly the same time, that's how you know it's the road you have to follow. That's how you know it's where you have to go. That's how you know you have to go. That's how you know. Just beyond yourself, it's where you need to be. I think I like Parodius because you're never living further than just beyond yourself. How the fuck does this guy no slip with all that blood flying? I can't believe I've never thought of that before. How is he no slipping everywhere? Because there's literally, how good are this guy's trainers that he isn't slipping all over the shop all the time? Aye, that doesn't make any sense. I wish I hadn't thought of that now. That's totally changed my opinion. No, you know how you think of something and then you can't stop seeing it? Like we were talking about earlier, you just fixate on it. I can't stop thinking about the fact that this guy literally hasn't slipped once and there is blood everywhere. That doesn't make any. That is the most unrealistic thing about this game. It's really good fun. You should probably play it. It's free if you've got Game Pass on Mondays. Mind and try not to get too into it though and turn into a nut job, because it feels like that might happen, that you could turn into an absolute nut job. So try and remember that this guy isn't slipping, so this isn't real life.
Hey guys, it's Rab here, and I just want to let you know that I have been playing in advance Aliens Fireteam Elite. Aliens Fireteam Elite is a co-op, squad-based shooting game where your guys are the colonial marines in the Aliens universe with the pulse rifles, and everyone was expecting that this game would be shit. And I got a chance to play it early because a friend of mine works for a review site and actually got a couple of codes. We don't get any codes at Consolevania really, so I have to kind of sponge them off of guys I know who work on websites. And we had a chance to play it together just purely because, you know, the PR company were like, why don't you give a code to your crappy pal so that you can do your review properly by playing with him? And so, you know, the guy I know played with me and we played Aliens Fireteam Elite. And it's a game about shooting aliens. You run through, you can get cosmetic upgrades for your guns and stuff like that. You know, all the bells and whistles that you get in video games nowadays. And I played it solo, first of all, to get prepped for my online session. And I was like, oh my god, this is so bad. It's like firing pea shooters at exploding little pop balloons shaped like aliens. And then I played it co-op with him, and actually it was pretty fucking good. So, yep, 7 out of 10. I've also been playing Quake, as everybody my age has been. This is the new updated version of Quake that's been released on everything. I bought it for the Switch so that I could play it on my Switch. I already had it on Steam, just automatically updated for me, and suddenly I had a new episode of Quake to play. This is the new episode. And it struck me when I was playing Quake again, which is just a fucking 10 out of 10 release, that new release. It's a 10 out of 10. It struck me when playing it that this is what I miss. You know, I miss first person shooters like this, and I know there are indie first person shooters that do a similar thing, but there's something about a game like Quake or Doom or Unreal Tournament. They're almost like a form of therapy. You can completely turn your brain off when you're playing these games. It's all instinct. It's all Twitch. You know what I mean? And I don't mean Twitch as in, you know, massive corporate machine swallowing up talent and getting free broadcasting hours without paying anybody. I mean Twitch as in Twitch response. You know, that animal brain taking over. And it's good for you playing games like this, I think. All the talk back in the day when you think about it, about how these games were bad for people. You fucking kidding me? These games were great for people. These games just allowed you to enjoy some mindless chaos. Got a beautiful sound of static in the capture here that I'm really enjoying as well. Just a kind of weird interference, and it just feels like part of it. It feels right. Kind of feel when you're playing first person shooters and stuff like that these days, there's almost like too much to think about. There's too much to think about, you know. How do I unlock this? How do I get out the gulag? What should I use? What perks should I pick? And all of that, when really, just give me a gun, let me push some buttons and let me shoot some fucking baddies. I think it really clarified what I didn't like about the most recent Doom Eternal game, you know, where everybody else seemed to love it and I was like, but this is more like a fucking puzzle game than like a shooting game, you know. I'm having to worry about how I'm unlocking extra ammo, how I'm shooting these baddies like they're big fucking pinatas so that I can collect some bullets to shoot the next baddie. Fuck that, man. You know? And you load up this beautifully redone version of Quake, and it makes it all clear in your mind. Sometimes I just want to play a game and just shut off. That's what's beautiful about games. It's not always that you're making the argument that it's art. It's saying something about the condition of the human spirit. It's allowing us to explore our fears or our neuroses. Sometimes it's just about fucking turning off. Turning off for a bit. A distraction. Can we know, for fuck's sake, just have a minute's peace?
Hiya. Have you ever watched a trailer for a video game and thought, no, you haven't? Why are you watching this? For those of you who've watched a trailer, missed it, mate, you missed it. For those of you who have watched a trailer for a video game in the past, have you ever watched a trailer and you've missed it? Ryan, you missed it again. Have you ever watched a trailer for a video game and thought, I'm into that, that looks good, you missed it? Back again, you missed it. That looks really good, that game. Looks a bit Super Monkey Ball. I like the music, I like the art style, it looks quite relaxed. I think I'm into that. I think I'll get that. That looks fun. And then 20 minutes into playing the game, you remember, oh that's right, I'm absolutely shite at games. Glyph is a good gonna stop dying. Glyph is a good, oh for Christ's sake, is a good game. Fuck me. It is nice and atmospheric, it does, oh fucking Christ. It is atmospheric. It has a beautiful, quite unique art style, and there is a nice variation in how the levels look, now that you're going to be able to tell it for this review. The controls are nice and simple, and it gets a tutorial out of the way quite quickly. You can jump, double jump, do a slam, or turn into a horrible flying bug thing, disgusting bug thing. And just like there's different level looks, there's different skins that you can get for your glyph. It is solid enough, the game. It does have a story aspect to it where it's telling you that you're travelling through this ancient lost world, but how they tell the story is just to have other wee glyphs spout some text at you, and that's where it makes the game feel a wee bit more like a kind of iPad, Android type experience as opposed to a normal computer game. You know what I mean by a normal computer game? It's available on Switch and Steam, but that way of telling the story, just in comparison to how nice the rest of the game is, feels a wee bit lazy. And it does have a journey feel to it, so I don't know why they made the decision to, it feels like a shortcut, the way it tells the story. It might not even need a story, to be honest, but it's got one anyway, if you want it. I would imagine that most people, you included, are almost certainly a lot better at games than I am. So you're not going to have the same hurdle to overcome that I had with Glyph, of not reaching the flow state of the platformer that I saw in the trailers, which originally sold me on getting the game. You might actually be able to enter that zone of enjoying the physics and the level design and the look and the sound and the atmosphere. You might actually be able to steep yourself in this, instead of what happened to me, where I got to the point where I was screaming at myself basically for being just so absolutely fucking useless. Raging that I'd ruined this beautiful thing that I was looking forward to, and worrying about how old and decrepit I was getting. Anyway, it's a good game, you might like it. You're a horrible fucking flying fucking disgusting bug thing, innit?
It was a simple matter, really. I merely served as a mediator in a dispute between the soccer and lacrosse clubs.
Oh, for fuck's sake, no you and all.
There's nothing to be concerned about. And besides, I'm quite sure you have more pressing matters to worry about right now.
What's going on? Is
Now,
everybody...
if you'll excuse me.
Is everybody in a bad way? What's going on? It's the pressure of school. That's what it must be. This is a game called Shadowverse Champions Battle. And I've been completely blown away by this game and completely obsessed with it. Stuck to it. Can I get the switch out my horns? Now, the game is structured like a Japanese RPG, right? You're a wee guy, he's moved into a school, and you're meeting characters, forming wee relationships. The storyline is kind of about setting up a Shadowverse club in your school and then trying to take on people in a big tournament, right? But it has a beautiful kind of Saturday morning cartoon feel. It's very positive, very upbeat. It's a very feel-good story. Even when there's the kind of wee darker elements in the story, it still always kind of resolves in a feel-good way. It's just puts a smile on your face. And this part of the game is great and it's saying, right, but I'll tell you something, you're going like that to me now, what is a Shadowverse club? What do you mean? What do you mean a Shadowverse club in a school? Shadowverse is this game that all these people play on their mobile phones, and it's a card battling game.
So, results are all that matter to you, huh? And how about this?
How about what, exactly?
A member of the Shadowverse Club ought to have no problem taking on someone in the soccer club, right?
So here's an extremely impressive specimen of a football jock here, challenging me to a Shadowverse match on the mobile phones. And this is where this game would stand or fall, on the quality of this card battling game. And I want you to take this from someone who is a veteran of card battling, whether that's in digital or tabletop form. This is about as good as it gets. Incredibly addictive, incredibly fast-paced, incredibly deep, and incredibly familiar as well. To anybody that's played card battling games before, you will very quickly get into how this game works. If you've never played a card battling game before, it eases you in beautifully as well. It teaches you how it all works beautifully. The clever thing that Shadowverse has over all these other games that I've played is that you can evolve your cards. You can put your cards out and then you have the power to evolve them, flip them over, and then they have a more powerful version of themselves. Here's me summoning a load of ghosts here. These ghosts have special abilities where they can attack immediately when they arrive, but they vanish at the end of the round. And every character, every card in this game has its own kind of cool effects. You start to become emotionally attached to your cards. It's the fact they're all beautifully illustrated as well, and every card is voiced. It's amazing. Now, there is the Japanese RPG stuff. Here's a wee puzzle here. This is like a wee quest, and it's a wee puzzle that I get stuck at for a ridiculously long time because it's unbelievably easy. I mean, can you work it out yourself? I was stuck here for ages. I was like, I don't get this. Once I realised what was actually going on here, I was like, oh my god, I'm a fucking idiot. This is like a puzzle for a 10-year-old. But I was stuck. But this is the thing. The game kind of has a lot going on. It has multiplayer battles. It has ranked battles. It has a kind of season system. There is nothing you need to pay for apart from, like, you know, it does offer you the chance to buy cosmetic things and stuff like that, but you can win all the cards by, you know, leveling up and ranking up and unlocking cards and challenging people. So as you move through the story of this RPG with these fun characters that you like spending time with, you just are constantly getting given new cards that you can put into decks, and there's so many different varieties of decks. Almost everybody that you challenge and play in the game has their own kind of custom deck that if you beat them, they'll go, here's my deck. Here's how you can put my deck together. Then you can work at collecting the cards to put together their deck. I'm so excited about this game because the depth that it offers is unreal. And since I got it, I've already encouraged a couple of people to buy it. Richard, who's been on Consolevania before, he's bought it. Kenny, he's bought it. And the thing that compels, the thing that keeps you returning, is the fact that when it gets to these Shadowverse battles, this game is so polished. so beautiful, so exciting to play. The matches twist and turn and ebb and flow. You think you've got no chance, and then you sweep back into it. You think you've won, and then suddenly the opponent kicks out with this incredible combo, which sends you back out to restructure your deck, and it's just such a beautifully deep game. Now, I want to talk about Hearthstone. I'm Scottish, I'm not quite sure how you want me to say it. However, this game does seem reminiscent of that, but I find this game far better than Hearthstone, because I feel like you're less of a victim of the random number generator with this. It feels deeper. The evolution thing is just smarter. This just feels like a smarter game. And also Hearthstone is just kind of evil as well. Made by bastards in an attempt to make you skint.
You play Shadowverse, don't you?
Too right I do, all the time.
I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something intriguing about you.
See, I love this. You know, you've got this amazing card battle game and you've got it wrapped up in all these beautiful JRPG anime tropes. This is just right up my street. It couldn't be further up my street. You're getting a beautifully polished, beautifully designed card battling game inside a cracking JRPG style wrapper with tons and tons of content. You can play online against people or play against your pals. And you can also meet loads of weirdos like this wee lassie that's, just hitting it with death is the end. Isn't that terrifying? Shadowverse Showdown!
Did anybody else think that there would be a similarity between your life and video games in so much as there would be a process of levelling up as the years went past, which would make you better equipped? I think I thought that, and it doesn't always feel like it's panning out that way. Also, have you ever heard anybody saying to you, be good to yourself? It's important to be good to yourself, be kind to yourself. I don't fully understand what that means. That probably says a lot about me, but I don't fully understand what that means. But sometimes when I'm trying to be good to myself, I comfort myself with games for the past, like this brown one. I forget what it's called. It's a glass sword, domestic laddie. Oh, good morning. It's a grim feeling sometimes to try and wrap yourself in a game for the past that you used to love and it doesn't work, so maybe it's better to look forward to new games and new experiences. Knife Two-Face? Like 12 Minutes, which has got Hollywood stars in it and all that. Got Hollywood stars in it, but also what feels like a really fundamental flaw in that your main character there that you're controlling is constantly behaving like he's under tremendous stress because he's caught in a loop where he knows what's going to happen next. But what that actually should in reality do is give him the upper hand. So it actually gives him the element of surprise that he knows what the loop is. But that just totally isn't acknowledged in the game. So it doesn't feel to me like it actually even works. Like the whole setup doesn't work. He's missed, didn't he move? He's missed no moving. Which seems like a bit of an oversight. There's an excellent chance that I'm just being extremely negative about this game though, because it really feels as if it is actually mining for tedium, being stuck in this loop and repeating actions over and over again with a horrible interface. Just puts you in the place where you want to have a right good fucking moan in the acting shite as well.
Make him leave?
Is she talking about me? Connections is what I'm thinking about. It feels as if connections hold you in place to a degree. Connections with people, connections with games, they hold you in position. And when you don't feel secure, you look for the connections again. And I think it's maybe part of the process that some connections fade or weaken. And you have to do a degree of work to make new connections. Some connections stay strong though. This game is 10 years old this year. And it is unbelievably good. I can't even describe how good it is. And I've tried many times. One of the factors in my thinking when I started making a podcast at the beginning of this year was what me and Rab were talking about, where I was saying I'm worried I'm no good at socialising, I'm worried I'm not meeting people, but I feel as if I need to make more connections. It's difficult for a meditator to say something like this, but sometimes it feels like you have a clear choice of making outward connections or face a kind of inward destruction. But that's probably just where I am right now that's making me say that, or making me think that. Also, maybe it's a pandemic thing, wanting more connections. Hello, I'm Ryan, I'm 43, and I'm really amazing at Dark Souls. Do you want to meet me? Do you want to meet me? Because I think I want to meet you. I think you should meet somebody anyway. See you later.